We have a very exciting guest today. This person is my best friend, is very smart, funny, creative, and no, I'm not talking about Brandon Sanderson. That is my wife, Susanna. My wife has a master's in English literature, and even though she has mostly read classics, she has read several fantasy books that I have recommended. So today we're going to go through some of the books she has read after I have recommended them and see if our opinions differ about these books.
First, I want to say hi. So we are going to rate using Lindt chocolate. Lindor, if you are there, feel free to sponsor us and send us chocolates.
First up, we have The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book in the Mistborn Trilogy. And if you've been following my Instagram page, then you will know that I gave this book a solid 5 out of 5 Lindt chocolates. This was one of the first epic fantasy books I read as an adult, and I loved everything about it. The magic system is fantastic, I love the characters and the world building, and I'm a huge sucker for an underdog. Also, the heist element just works so well for me, and the stakes are massive, which really make this book feel really intense. The Final Empire is one of the reasons why I fell in love with fantasy, and I don't feel any shame about giving it a well-deserved 5 Lindt chocolates.
Woohoo!
So, what did you give The Final Empire?
So, I would give The Final Empire 4.5 Lindt chocolates. So, this was one of the first fantasy books recommended by Johan that I read. He kind of just hyped it up loads, and then I was like, should I read it? And he was like, yes, you should. And so I read it. I have read other fantasy books before meeting Johan, so this was not the first sort of delving into a completely different world and a magical system. So yeah, I give it 4.5 because I really enjoyed Sanderson's writing. I love a book that includes a strong female lead and, like you said, an underdog. I also enjoyed how Sanderson's story presented sort of an unlikely band that needed to sort of really work together and figure out dynamics to function as a team. And I also really liked how it felt more like the end of a trilogy rather than the start. I remember reading it and thinking, oh, there's 2 more books.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really predict what was going to happen, which was great because it's something I often do. So yeah, 4.5.
Then we have The Well of Ascension, which is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, and I'm so pleased that Susanna actually continued with the Mistborn series. This is probably the weakest book out of the 3 books in the series, in my opinion, but I love when fantasy books have a lot of political maneuvering, strategizing, and riveting dialogue, and this book definitely has all those elements. Love this book as well, which is why I gave it 5 Lindt chocolates.
Ooh. Which I will be eating.
So, what did you think about the second book in the Mistborn trilogy?
Well. I think The Well of Ascension was actually my favourite of the 3. So I would give it 5 Lindt chocolates. This is probably because at this point in the series, I knew the characters and then could just enjoy watching them grow and develop their relationships and their dynamics, sort of see how they function. And I also liked the different points of views in this one. I feel like there was more of a variety. 5 Lindt chocolates.
Well, I'm really pleased that we both agree that this book deserves 5 Lindt chocolates. Woohoo! Lastly, we have The Hero of Ages, the last book in the series, and I also gave it 5 Lindt chocolates. Is anyone surprised? I found the conclusion to be incredibly epic, satisfying, and especially loved how the theme of religion was handled. This book has so many great character moments, and I just really enjoyed it. It felt very cinematic in many ways. So what did you think about the conclusion?
So The Hero of Ages, I would actually give a 4, I think. So
Wow.
4 Lindt chocolates. And I think that is mostly because when I think back on reading this series, I remember more from the first 2 books and remember less from this one. But I did love sort of specific character development and struggles.
So what would you rate my recommendation of the Mistborn trilogy?
I would rate it overall 4.9.
It's oddly specific. Fortunately, those are not the only books Susanna has read which I have recommended. Susanna also picked up The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I recommend Susanna to read this one because I enjoyed it immensely and also gave it 5 Lindt chocolates. I probably wouldn't have given such a high rating now if I reread it because I have definitely noticed some issues later on. But there's so many things that made this book stand out for me. Firstly, the Asian setting felt very fresh and unique to me, which I loved. Moreover, Rin is an underdog, and she has so many obstacles and challenges she needs to overcome, and I just love seeing how Rin worked her way through all the obstacles and grew as part of facing all these hardships. Also, this book is very grim. Actually, almost a bit too grim, but I did appreciate that sense of realism. Fun fact. Suzanne and I are going to a talk in Oxford in May where Kwang is the main speaker, so we're very excited to actually see her in person. So what did you think about the Poppy War?
So I actually don't remember it being that grim, maybe because you talked about it being so grim, so I thought maybe it was going to be worse than it was. But I would give the Poppy War a solid 4.5 Lindt chocolates. I really enjoyed this one. Again, strong female lead, love it. And then I also just really love an aggressive, strong female lead.
Yeah, she's aggressive.
She is aggressive. And in this, yeah, so that's definitely in this book. And I love Rin, and I also really don't ever want to meet Rin, to be honest.
Yeah, she's scary.
Glad that she's a fictional character. I enjoyed it because of the setting, the pacing, the character growth, and the pain of the protagonist was also really, really interesting. And sort of the emotional aspect of the characters came across genuine and strong. And then I also just really enjoyed reading a book that's sort of inspired by sort of mid-20th century China. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Next up we have The Wheel of Time.
Ooh.
Yes, my wife is currently reading The Wheel of Time. She is truly my soulmate. First up we have The Eye of the World. I gave this book 4 Lindt chocolates. I thought it was a solid introduction, but it definitely does have some issues. Firstly, the pacing is quite slow in some parts of the book, and the ending is really weird and quite confusing, to be honest. Moreover, this feels very much like a Lord of the Rings-esque book, so I gave this one 4 stars. It is a great introduction with some issues, but I'm so glad I picked up this series because it was one of the first series I read as an adult, and it did have a huge impact on me.
The Eye of the World, I would give 3.5 Lindt chocolates. I enjoyed this read, but I did watch the first season of the Wheel of Time the Wheel of Time series before reading. I would definitely say that my perception of characters and events was really dictated by the series in many ways. I was seeing the actors as the characters, basically. I don't know if I would have caught on to certain elements if I hadn't seen the series, but I really enjoyed it, and am persevering in the series. Usually if I DNF a book, it is within the first 10 pages anyway, so...
So yes, my wife is continuing with The Wheel of Time, which I'm really pleased about. Then we have The Great Hunt. I gave this one 5 stars. I remember thinking that this book was paced much better, and I really started to feel invested in the characters and the plot at this point. Moreover, Jordan's world building is so intricate and masterfully done. Also, the conclusion is absolutely mad and very memorable. The Great Hunt is definitely one of my favorite in the series.
Well, I gave The Great Hunt 3.5. This one I enjoyed too, but some of the characters really, really annoyed me at times. A lot. And I didn't know them that well at that point either, so I was just being like, you're annoying, please stop.
And then we have The Dragon Reborn, which is also a book I thoroughly enjoyed, and I believe I gave it 4.5 Lindt chocolates. I can't really remember because it's been a while, but this is one of the shorter Wheel of Time books, which is actually one of its main strengths. We don't have as many paging issues in this one, and the tensions and the overall stakes increase even more in this book.
So, The Dragon Reborn, I gave 4 Lindt chocolates. So far, The Dragon Reborn is my top. I think at this point, I knew more, like, the characters better and could enjoy their personalities and even their annoying habits at times, which was very helpful, seeing as they are so annoying sometimes. And there were still, though, moments where I got very annoyed at characters, and I sometimes felt that they knew this and they did this to annoy me on purpose. I think that something that really intrigued me with this whole series though was the interaction between male and female. I find this interaction often irritating, especially as I'm quite a straightforward person and value communication.
Yeah.
However, reading the dynamic between male and female characters in the series sometimes, even though it annoyed me, really intrigued me. And it's just interesting to see how Robert Jordan has created a world in which there are cultures that naturally position women as the dominant and leading sex. But I do think it is very noticeable that Robert Jordan is a man writing about women.
Yeah.
I think it basically comes down to how Robert Jordan quite often sort of comments on how the male characters find the female characters complicated creatures. And there's even like a statement that's often said that, oh, why are women so complicated? And it's kind of like, yeah, okay, we're not that complicated. Men are also complicated. Why are the women not thinking the same thing?
And then we have Dracula by Bram Stoker, an absolute classic that Susanna actually recommended to me. I read this book before I really started reading again, and I remember I spent more than a month trying to get through this book. I didn't take that long because I didn't enjoy it. I was just really out of practice when it came to reading. I gave this book 4 Lindt chocolates. The format felt very unique. I believe the whole story is told through diary entries and maybe some articles and letters, which felt very unique. Moreover, Stoker does a fantastic job at creating tension and atmosphere, and Dracula is just such an iconic villain and creature. I definitely think this one is worth reading, and it was a very great recommendation, so thank you.
You are very welcome. So, Bram Stoker's Dracula, I gave 4 Lindt chocolates, like you, so we agree.
Yay.
Woohoo! I like the format of the novel. I like that it is written in sort of letters, and you've got sort of diary entries, and you've even got some articles in there. And I think that sort of made it kind of gothic realism-esque kind of thing, which I really enjoyed. But I definitely think that although Dracula can be analysed and there's so many layers to it, is definitely not as smooth a read as most of the previous books we've looked at already in this video. But again, like Robert Jordan, but worse, Bram Stoker has some weird ideas about women. They are, as Mother Gothel says, fragile as a flower and cry a lot, and they're just basically like very weak. Unless they are vampires, then they're dangerous. So wasn't the biggest fan of that, but used to seeing it.
So what is the best recommendation I have given to you out of all of these books?
Probably at the moment the Mistborn Trilogy is the best recommendation you've given me, and it kind of like
read it.
Started with the Mistborn Trilogy, because once I read this I was reminded how like I did enjoy fantasy.
I'm telling you guys, she is my soulmate. So these are all the books we have covered in this video. Have you read any of these? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, would you like to see more videos where we both team up together? If you have any video ideas, then make sure to leave them down in the comments down below. And as always,
thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support, and we
really appreciate it.